What's up, everybody? It is Izzy. Today is going to be Q&A number 83. So I look forward to seeing what you guys ask me, but you know the drill for the rest of this slide, which is if you like the Q&As, please consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. And if that's too much, it's $1 a month. Just like the videos, like the answers that you find interesting or entertaining, as it helps me in the algorithm. It also just helps me know which answers are good and which are shit. Second, if you'd like to work with me directly, I have a few slots left for half-price coaching. You can just DM me on Instagram or find my email in the description box on YouTube. Buy any of my ebooks if you'd like. The link is in my bio on Instagram or in the description box on YouTube. I have books about dieting, powerlifting training, hypertrophy training, so a wide variety of topics. That said, again, look forward to the questions for the rest of today. I have 3 training sessions left where I get to use both of my arms. And then I have surgery this Tuesday. So, gotta make them count. Is there a rate of progression that is too slow during a bulk that shows something is wrong? So my personal rule for this is you have to add at least 1% load per week. Now, if you're doing something like dumbbells where you can't micro-load, that's the equivalent of adding a rep once every 3 weeks or so. If you're doing a movement and you can't add a rep at least once a month, I suspect something is wrong with the program and or you just need to get rid of that movement because it's stale. You should be able to at least once a week add 1% weight. So that means if you bench press 225, the next week you should be able to go in there and bench press 227. That's my general rule, 1% per week. Should you program a squat pattern with an ascending strength curve before or after leg press in a session? I would always program the squat pattern first. The only exception is for people who are very, very, very strong and it hurts their knees if they don't pre-exhaust. Because if you pre-exhaust your quads with another exercise and then you go and do squats, yes, you might have a better SFR for quads, but you're going to get way less stimulus for the adductors, way less stimulus for the glutes, way less stimulus for any quad fibers that weren't used in the movement you used to pre-exhaust. Just do the squat first. What do you think about veganism? I honestly think I have the most obnoxious veganism take that I've ever heard, which is that I don't care. I don't care. Everybody wants to pretend that they're such a good person. Well, guess what? I don't. I don't think that much about philosophy. I don't think about what's the most moral way to live. I live the way that I want to live. Will I help an old lady cross the street? Absolutely. Would I save a drowning kid in a pool right in front of me? 1,000%. Would I sell my iPhone for $1,000 and donate it to a starving family in Africa to save their lives? No, I probably wouldn't. So it's the same thing for veganism. I love meat. It's super good and it's inconvenient for me to be vegan. I don't care if it's morally superior. I'm not doing it. An exercise's productivity can be assessed by how much pain you endure in the stretch position. Fuck no, this is so overly simplistic. Like, people are getting so carried away with this longer muscle length training and length and bias training. Out of all the biggest people you've ever seen, what percentage of them lower their dumbbells down all the way on dumbbell shoulder presses and dumbbell chest presses? Out of all people with the biggest legs you've ever seen, how many of them use exaggerated full ROM? How many of them even do regular full ROM on a leg press? No, this would mean that sissy squats are better than squats, and they're not. They're 100% not. This isn't the only criteria. There are many other criteria. When it comes to programming, how do you choose between optimal and preference? In 99.9% of cases, I will just go with preference if we're talking about me personally, because I'm not going to prefer to do something that seriously negatively impacts my results. Like, if my personal preference is to max out on singles every single day, well, yeah, I'm not going to do that because that's going to create a huge negative effect. If my personal preference is to do pull-ups over a length and bias pull-down machine, I'll do the damn pull-ups, man. There's not that big of a difference. Pull-ups are still great for your lats, great for your upper back. So it just doesn't make that big of a difference. Don't get caught up majoring in the minors. At the end of the day, getting stronger across the major compound and isolation movements is what makes you bigger and stronger. Will you favor short position biased curls when your tendon heals for safety? I mean, how is that more safe? What evidence do you have that a curl that trains the short position is safer than a curl that trains the lengthened position? No, I won't. The only two curl variations that I really use in my programming are incline curls / face away curls. They accomplish the same thing. They train the bicep in the fully stretched position with your arm behind your body. And then the other variation that I use is preacher curls. And preacher curls do bias the short position to some degree, but the way that I do preacher curls, I do full elbow extension on those as well. I'll just make sure I use an implement with a rotating handle this time, but same curl variations for me. Do you think so-and-so influencer that I've never heard of would have a higher bench press if they didn't max out every single time before they did bench? I mean, are we really at the point, man, where I have to tell you that maxing out a lift every time before you train it is a bad idea? Well, okay, here we go. Yes, maxing out a lift every time before you train it is a bad idea. And if you don't do that, it is easier to get stronger in the long run, and you will have a higher ceiling. There you go. Did you buy the cable cuffs that you use for crossbody extensions and lateral raises? Yes, I did. I just went on Amazon and typed in cable wrist cuff attachment and absolutely bought the cheapest one there. I can't even pronounce the brand name, it's Chinese, so that's what I would do. Why is the day that you start lifting the day that you feel forever small? So I know this is just like a funny meme and it's not meant to be taken seriously, but I'm just going to take it seriously anyway because that's my weird personality. I don't feel small, man. Now, I constantly think I need to get bigger, and I'm obsessed with getting bigger because it is necessary for my goals to get bigger. I am nowhere near big enough to be at the level in competitive bodybuilding that I'd like to be at. However, I haven't felt small in a really long time. I mean, by the time I was like 20, I was like 5'6", 5'7", 190. I didn't really feel small, man. I was bigger than the average person on the street. So I think at some point you got to get your like self-esteem in check and just realize that even if you're not like top 0.0000001% in the world, it doesn't mean that you suck. Do you think the literature will ever catch up to the best practices of coaches and pros, or will it always be behind? It will always be behind by nature, man, because in order for the research to even get the idea to test something, someone has to be doing it in the real world first. Part of growing up as a lifter is coming to terms with the fact that people like Arnold can be wrong about things that have to do with bodybuilding training, right? And so people want to replace those godlike figures with science, and they want science to have the same godlike qualities. They want science to be all-knowing and all-correct, and that's just not the way that it works. In the first place, that's not how the scientific method operates, right? Anytime we get a new piece of evidence, a new addition to the literature, it can either strengthen or weaken existing theories, but it never definitively proves anything. It just gives additional evidence to particular ways of thinking. If you only trust literature, you're being lazy. You're dismissing mountains of evidence that you just don't feel like sifting through with logic, deductive reasoning, and of course, real-world testing. Real-world testing is what ultimately validates all training practices, and you cannot skip out of it. Do you have a framework for using PEDs in conjunction with training and nutrition for bodybuilding? Yes, I do. Is that the end of the question? That's all you wanted to know? Just kidding, man. Here's the general framework. So bridges or cruises should be timed with maintenance periods in terms of calories or mini cuts, and your training volume should also be somewhat lower in these periods to help with recovery and to help you resensitize once you're using higher doses. So full-on courses of PEDs, or quote-unquote blasts as they're known, should be timed with off-seasons or bulks as they're more commonly known. And the only other time that you'd want to do that is during a full-on contest prep so that you do not lose muscle as you approach low single digits body fat, getting ready for competition. That's the general framework. I've injured my quad. Would you train the other one while it's hurt? How do I get back to quad training and general advice? Well, when I tore my bicep, I didn't stop training my left side. Everyone saw that. I do think you should train the other side. Just do unilateral movements with the leg that isn't hurt. And whatever rehab you're doing for the hurt leg, once you're at the point where you can start loading it again, keep training it unilaterally. And once it gets back within 1 rep or so of the non-injured side, you can go back to doing all of your movements bilaterally. That's what I did with my bicep, and as you can see, I'm pretty much back to setting PRs on everything. How is Izzy doing physically and mentally? What are 4 things you're grateful for right now? I'm always pretty much the same, man. I'm a really even-keeled person. It's not because I try to be stoic. It's just my natural personality. I don't get anxious. I don't get nervous. I don't get scared. I also don't really get too excited. I'm not like over the top happy. I'm just pretty even keeled, man. Everything's really flat for me most of the time. And I really don't mean that in a negative way. It's just the way that I am. I like being that way. As for the things that I'm grateful for, it's really always the same stuff. My family, my friends, my dogs, and this life that I lead where I'm able to pursue my passion on a daily basis. Thanks for asking. Would an upper-lower push-pull split be a good split for someone who doesn't care about legs, just wants to maintain them? So the split that I would suggest in this instance then is push-pull legs off, push-pull off. I actually give that split to a lot of people because the way that I'll set it up is the legs day will have a squat pattern, adductors, calves, and a leg curl. And then on the second pull day of the week, that will be deadlift and rows. So that's one of my favorite ways to set this up. But again, guys, there's nothing magic about any split. Do whatever split that you want. It doesn't tell us anything. The far more important thing for your progress is going to be how you organize volume and intensity to generate progress on a session-to-session basis. I have a fixed weekly schedule, so I have different amounts of rest between certain training days that train the same movement. What should I do? Just use a different rep range for each time that you do that movement and progress it separately. So let's say that you train bench press once per week on 3 days rest, and then another day per week you train bench press on 2 days rest. On the day where I have 3 days rest before bench press, I'll probably do it heavier since I'm more rested in the 8 to 12 rep range or 5 to 10 rep range. On the day where I only have 2 days rest for bench press, I'll do it in a much higher rep range, say 10 to 15 or 12 to 20, something like that. So just use different rep ranges on each day and progress them entirely separately. Do not cross-reference them against each other. The other option, if you don't want to do this, is just don't repeat the same movements twice in the week. Use something else. Cover a little bit more ground, train the muscle at a different length, train it at a different angle, something of that nature, and both of those strategies will work. Why do some lifters hit a percentage of their ceiling faster than others? For example, one lifter gets to 80% of his ceiling and another lifter gets to 60% of his ceiling in the exact same amount of time. I basically just reject the premise of this whole question. One, I don't really believe there's a ceiling. Many people are still getting to their biggest and strongest in their mid-40s, both natural and enhanced. And what usually ends lifting careers in terms of like the final PR is injuries or legitimate old age. Second, there's no way to confirm that somebody got to a percentage of their ceiling faster than someone else. We can't like shake a magic 8 ball and determine what somebody's ceiling is. So realistically, some people make progress faster than others because they have better genetics or better training practices, better nutrition practices, better recovery practices. It's very common for people to actually hit a stalling point in the intermediate phase, figure some things out in terms of lifestyle and training, and then start making faster progress again as an advanced athlete. I just don't like the question. Shouldn't the 1% increase decrease as you get more advanced? No, 100% not, man. That's the minimum that I would expect to see. For somebody who's not advanced, I would expect them to add 1% load and add reps across a month. Keep this in mind, man. Unless you deadlift more than 750 pounds for reps, then the nearest increment on a 1% increase is 5 pounds. Do you know anyone who can't sustain 5 pounds per week jumps on deadlifts? If so, maybe they're a power lifter, but from a bodybuilding perspective, it would just make sense to rotate to a stiff leg or an RDL or a good morning and progress that for 6 months, 9 months, and then come back to deadlifts later. No, it should not slow down. That's the minimum, 1%. Even after adding another set, my overhead press, my seated overhead press doesn't really progress. Any tips? So here's the general heuristic that I want you guys to use. If a lift is stagnated, meaning you're getting about the same performance every time, or you add a small amount of weight and you lose 1 rep, what's happening there is a lack of progress, and you can go ahead and add another set. It doesn't matter if you've already recently added another set. Add another one. Get even more stimulus if the stimulus that you added wasn't enough to start progressing again. On the other hand, if you're adding a set and losing 2 or 3 reps compared to what you did last time, or something else that is a clear regression, then you actually need to add rest to that lift or improve the SFR somehow. You didn't need to add another set. So make that distinction and decide for yourself. I didn't quite get enough questions to cover all my footage today, so one of the things that I wanted to talk about just for my own interest, and maybe some of you guys will find it interesting as well, is over the years, and this is something that has only happened to me once I started using PEDs, and I suspect it has to do something with water balance, masking weight loss, but my weight will stall, I'll slowly decrease calories on a week by week basis, and then out of nowhere, I'll have a week where I lose 5, 6, 7 pounds in a single week. And what I've learned from past experiences is to not let these weeks go unchecked. I will immediately refeed. And what I mean by a refeed is a true refeed, not a ton of fat. I'll just like double or triple my rice and make sure that I'm getting somewhat over maintenance calories via strictly carbs. Over the past 2 days, I've probably had at least 1,500 carbs combined, which is 900 to 1,000 more than what I would have had planned. And as you can see, it barely stemmed the tide there. It bumped my weight up, 2 or 3 pounds, and then it went down again on the second day, and it's already going down again today. And that's why I've learned to not let these things go unchecked. Believe it or not, on my very first cycle, I was dieting, I was trying to get leaner, and I had a period where I was being really conservative with calorie changes. And across a single 2-week period, I just out of nowhere suddenly dropped 11 pounds. And I did increase my calories from week to week, but I made conservative increases. And in that 2-week period where I lost 11 pounds of body weight, I did get significantly leaner, but my strength went down by about 20% across all movements. And that surely led to muscle loss. That's why I don't allow that to happen anymore. And I put these refeeds in whenever I see a similar pattern starting to emerge. So folks, moral of the story, don't be overly systematic. Don't be too tied to the way you do things. If you're having a week where your body weight is doing all sorts of stuff it shouldn't be doing, don't wait till the end of the week to adjust. You can make midweek adjustments, and sometimes that's the right move. In my case, had I not made this midweek adjustment, I think my strength would be suffering big time. Alrighty folks, that is the end of today's Q&A. So as always, if you enjoy the Q&As, please consider becoming a supporter on Patreon for $1 a month. If not, just like the videos on YouTube and the story slides that you find interesting, especially the first one with the question box so that more people see it. Instagram shows the first slide on a story more than all the other ones, so it's most important that that one has the most likes. FYI, if you ever want to help any content creator friends out. That said, if you want to work with me directly, I do have half-price coaching slots still available somehow. Ebooks, my ebooks are going to be in the link in my bio or in the link in the description box if you're seeing this on YouTube. All that said, if you are seeing this on YouTube, please subscribe if you haven't already, and have a good day, my friends. I'll be back with another Q&A and training session on Sunday. Tomorrow, Saturday, I will get out another video in the top 10 exercises for hypertrophy series. Have a good one, everyone.